just make a couple of comments. First, I want to address the issue of focus and priorities that we've heard the Democrats talk a lot about. I don't know if you've gotten the same impression that I have, but they have talked a lot during the election and during the session about their number one focus is the budget, the economy, jobs. But then you look what we've done in this session. The first thing we did is we passed the most extreme and partisan version of the Obamacare exchange. It's not going to get any support outside the DFL caucus. That's the first thing we did. Raising taxes and putting more burdens on the economy and raising the costs of insurance to consumers. First thing we did. We have got, I think, extraordinary gun control measures that probably aren't going to get support bipartisanly to pass in the legislature, but they're working on that. And then we've got same-sex marriage to the floor. Before all these things, before they've even introduced their budget, to say much less having hearings or passing it. In fact, their targets haven't even been introduced. So the focus of the DFL party is not on the budget, it is not on the economy, it is not on jobs. It is on these issues that are divisive and extraordinary and not what they claimed they were running for and being elected to do. That's the first point I'd like to make. Secondly, just a quick comment on the governor's budget announcement as revised budget. And all I would like to say is that it is still tax-a-palooza here in the legislature. We are approaching spring break. It is government gone wild. It is unbelievable that there is a proposal that says we just need to raise more taxes because we just need to spend more money. It is absolutely unnecessary. And they talk about how we need to do this in order to achieve structural balance. It is an incontrovertible fact that at current tax rates, the next two bienniums, we will see an excess of over $4 billion in revenue beyond projected spending. The budget that the Republican majorities passed in 2011, the last time we were in the majority, that budget has generated $2.5 billion of revenue in excess of what that budget called for. So you could almost argue that the budget we passed, the so-called all-cuts budget, has generated more revenue than the governor's proposed budget that is a revenue-enhancing or revenue-increasing budget. The point is that you do not need to put additional burdens on the economy to get revenue. You do not need to do this if you are trying to find ways to do the things the people of this state expect. And we all know that the people of this state expect good services, they expect education, they expect health care, and they expect them to be done efficiently, economically, and to get results. And none of those things are being accomplished in the governor's budget. He's raising a lot of money because, and I just look at the paper, he talked about, it was referred to as the tax the rich mantra. And of course a mantra is just a religious slogan. It is an ideological commitment that the governor and the Democrats have. Doesn't matter what the economy is, doesn't matter what the budget is. They've been talking about raising taxes for the last 10 years. And now they have the opportunity to do it, and so they are going to do it. Whether it's necessary, whether it's needed, whether it's justifiable is irrelevant. They are going to do it because they are committed to doing it. They think it's somehow something that is fair or right or justifiable. And you look at the spending side. What are they accomplishing with the spending? There's nothing that if you look at the spending, there's no reform, there is no improvement, there is no betterment in this. And this is the concern that we have with the governor's plan. We think that you need to look at the money that we have. We argue that there is enough money to achieve a structurally balanced budget in this biennium and the next biennium without raising tax rates. And we think there is enough money to do the things that would provide reform and some of the things that we tried to enact in the last 2 years in our budget, and I would argue that we did do. So we think that they are completely off track. They're going in the wrong direction. We are committed to try to help them and work with them, and we will join with them every time we have the opportunity to pass bills that are going to move the state in a direction that will build the opportunity for Minnesotans to work, to grow the economy, to find jobs. Those are the things that are important. Those are the things that we are committed to, and we are committed to helping our friends on the other side do that if they wish. But we are not going to go down the path of putting additional burdens on the economy. We do have with us, in addition to Representative Daudt, our tax chair, but presumptive chair, Senator Ortman, who I think would like to make a few comments as well. And I don't, Kurt, do you want to take a minute?
Good morning. Obviously, it's been a busy week in the House. Today is the first committee deadline, so members are busy hearing bills in committee. Some of those have many bills on the agenda. I think one of them had as many as 19 bills on the agenda for today. So I'm not sure that that's the transparency that we'd like to see, but I know the Democrats are pushing bills through at a rapid pace. So last night we passed the first tax increase off of the House floor of this session, which is exactly the wrong move in this economy. That's right. and that tax is a tax on job creators in Minnesota. It's also a tax on middle-class Minnesotans. Exactly the wrong people that we want to be taxing at this time in this fragile economic recovery. So we're a bit concerned about that. The bill left for conference committee with a Republican vote. It left the House floor last night without a Republican vote. So as Senator Hand said, the first agenda item the first major agenda item that the Democrats have passed, they have passed on a partisan basis, and it's a tax increase on the wrong people at the wrong time. So I will also point out that there was actually bipartisan opposition to the bill. We had one Democrat who actually has worked in the healthcare industry and probably knows more than most and as much as any member of the House about the impacts of the Democrats' health insurance exchange on Minnesota. And with that knowledge and expertise, that member voted against the bill. They understand how harmful this is going to be to Minnesota, to job creators, and to middle-class Minnesotans. So the wrong move at the wrong time. Obviously, the governor introduced his supplemental budget yesterday. We were happy to see that the governor understands that increasing taxes in this economy has consequences, and he retracted many of his tax increases. We still think that his budget is going to be harmful to Minnesota's economy, and it's going to put a burden on job creators in Minnesota. And also, we think that's the wrong move at this time. We also, one thing that I'd like to note, the governor and the Democrats have talked and talked through the last campaign about not balancing the budget in the backs of the school kids. The governor in his previous budget did not pay the school shift back in the next biennium. He actually did pay it back or had it paid back in the next biennium. I'll point out that in this budget, the governor has deleted that. He's not addressing the school shift at all. So again, the governor doesn't get the right to say that he's got a budget that doesn't have shifts and gimmicks, because he certainly is continuing an education shift that all of us have made a commitment that we want to prioritize paying that money back to the schools, so we're not putting a burden on our school districts and our school children. So that certainly is a concern. Looking forward to next week, the Democrats in the House have said we'll have a budget resolution and we'll have budget targets. So we'll have an indication of how many taxes we're going to probably see out of at least out of the House side of the legislature. We brought a chart today that basically says that Dayton's tax plan is the tip of the iceberg for middle-class Minnesotans. And all we know about right now are the things that he's proposed and what the DFL leaders of the legislature have not told us. And there are many other tax increases that are being debated right now. But what they have not told us is how much taxes the legislature is going to increase. And the chart shows some of the examples of some of the things that are being considered right now that will be most harmful, and many of them very regressive taxes, but most harmful to Minnesota's economy, to job creators in Minnesota, and to middle-class Minnesotans. So in closing, I think the theme here is that Democrats' taxes will sink Minnesota's economy, and we think that's the wrong move. Senator Ortman.
Thank you. Well, good morning. From my point of view, there's really no justification for the governor to propose even $1 more in tax increases on Minnesotans, because we don't need to spend more. Revenues are actually increasing from the last biennium. And so with just a little bit of work and discipline, we can reprioritize the money that we have, spend wisely the new money that the economy has provided through growth. We don't need to increase taxes on anyone. It's disappointing to me that the governor still is trying to force the issue of tax fairness, to me, looks more like social engineering. It's a goal instead of meeting an actual need for state government. Minnesota's taxes are already too high. If we increase the fourth tier and impose that tier on Minnesotans, we will have the fourth highest income tax rate in the nation, right behind California, Hawaii, and Oregon. Most states are reducing taxes. Minnesota should not be going in the opposite direction. When it comes to the corporate taxes, that's a very big concern for us, too, because we're already in the top 3 in the nation when it comes to corporate taxes. What the governor is proposing is a 16% increase on corporate taxes, which will have a terrible impact on all Minnesotans, and let me explain why. When Governor Dayton wants to increase taxes on corporations, they are less likely to invest here. They're less likely to bring their foreign income back to Minnesota. They're less likely to expand here. They have all kinds of options to do business in other states. And so we're likely to lose that business. But not just their employees will be impacted. All of those vendors and small businesses that provide services to our larger corporations will be imperiled with this tax increase. And that means middle-class Minnesotans will have fewer job opportunities. That's a real terrible thing for Minnesotans to hear, because I think that our families and our small businesses are still struggling to recover from the economic recession. We need to give them a chance to expand and grow. We need to give them a chance to recover. That's already starting to happen, and we should allow it to continue before we impose even $1 more in new taxes. There's really no justification in this budget for raising $1 more in taxes.
Where does that 16% figure come from for the increase in corporate taxes?
It comes from the Chamber of Commerce.
I mean, is it the FOCs and foreign royalties, just those two changes?
Right. So what he would call closing the loopholes actually changes the tax liability for our major corporations here in Minnesota. Originally, he had talked about lowering the tax rate, but he's stepped back from that, repealed his proposal on that as well. So now he's just going to raise taxes on our biggest corporations. And as I said, it has a very big impact on middle-class Minnesotans, too.
Democrats and the governor have said repeatedly that, okay, if you don't like his plan, where's your plan? So where's your plan?
Well, you've seen evidence of the plan in the last 2 years when we were in the majority. That is the plan that we have proposed, that we have enacted. In fact, it's the plan that we're operating under right now, the budget that we enacted in 2011. We would argue that that is the plan for Minnesota, is not to overspend the economy and to do real reform in the spending. We are going to propose after the Democrats, I guess, at some point propose their budget whenever they get to that. But we will have a framework that will demonstrate in a little more detail the things that can be done, could be done with a more responsible approach to the budget, one that would not put additional burdens on the economy, but would look at holding the spending in line with revenues and try to do things that would foster growth. Those are the things we think are important. The real question when we talk about the governor's proposal is, how does these things he's proposing grow the economy? How does raising the taxes grow the economy? How does the spending grow the economy? How does anything in the governor's budget cause growth and job production in the economy? And there's nothing there. It is just an additional burden on taxpayers and on citizens of this state, on businesses of this state. It is not growth-oriented, and that is a huge problem.
Do any Republicans think it's a missed opportunity that sales tax isn't going to be looked at all? There have been lots of nonpartisan commissions saying it's volatile, lower the rate, broaden the base, maybe even in a revenue-neutral way. Should that be done at all?
Well, we're not convinced that it's not going to be looked at. We have not heard any of the Democrat leaders in the legislature say it is absolutely off the table. Not heard that. The governor said it's off the table as far as his recommendation, but we have not heard Senator Bach or Speaker Thiessen or anybody say sales taxes are off the table as far as their budget is concerned. So we may, and I know that there have been people in our caucus, and I assume in the House caucus as well, that are certainly in favor of looking at reform, as long as that's just not a catchphrase to mean tax increase. I think there's lots of people who want to talk about reform. We all want a simpler tax code, one that is more growth-oriented. But if it's just another way to talk about raising taxes, we're probably not too interested in that.
But is the momentum gone now to even look at Minnesota's sales tax system?
Well, in the minority, we don't have a lot of opportunity to push legislation because we need the votes, but we can certainly talk about things. And I know Senator Ortman has been a leader in talking about tax reform for years. So I think that if there's a desire for real tax reform, they'll find lots of willing partners on our side.
Representative Dan, are you going to release a budget plan that addresses both the deficit and the school shift that you say needs to be paid back?
I think that we'll, as I said yesterday, we'll continue to work with the Democrats, and I've been very sincere about my willingness to roll up our sleeves and come to the table. I've been saying that since the day I was elected minority leader, and I mean that, and I still think there's an opportunity, and I hope that we can work together and come up with one budget. If I feel like we can't get there, we probably will come out with some alternative ideas at some point. As the senator said, a framework of sorts that will kind of outline how we think we can accomplish our goals of making Minnesota more competitive and continuing to grow Minnesota's economy and grow jobs in Minnesota without putting a burden on middle-class Minnesotans. So if we get to the point where I feel like we can't work together, I certainly think we'll probably come up with an alternative framework.
You have plans right now to do that?
I don't right now because, as I've said, and I wouldn't be very sincere if I didn't mean that we were hoping that we can work together in a bipartisan fashion. I mean, how many times did we hear the Democrats say over the last 2 years that they wanted compromise? Well, this is their opportunity to live up to their words. Let's find something that we can all live with. And we saw last night on the House floor that their compromise is passing their first tax increase off the House floor without a single Republican vote. So that's what compromise apparently means to the Democrats. And we've seen now what the governor's balanced approach means. It's all taxes, and that's what he's obviously committed to. It's I think originally his plan, I haven't seen the latest version, but originally his plan was $16 of tax increases for every dollar in reductions. And ultimately, I think we found out later that was actually probably $22 to one. That's not the balanced approach the governor talked about. So we need to stop letting people say one thing out in the campaign trail and doing another thing when they get to the Capitol. But I'm going to take them at their word that they're willing to compromise, and I'm hoping that we can work together to come up with a plan that Republicans can support. But at this point, I'm not super optimistic that can happen. But I'm still giving them the opportunity to work with us.
Is your willingness to compromise in the general sense end at anything that would include any additional revenue, any budget with any additional revenue in it?
I think we need to, not necessarily, but I think we need to get away from the notion that it takes tax increases to create revenue in Minnesota. I mean, we've shown that in the current biennium, we've got about, I think it's $2.9 billion worth of revenue that came in over projection or over the budget. So that's a $2.9 billion surplus. And remember, that's a budget that the governor called an all cuts budget. What did we do? We let the economy grow and we let the economy create jobs. And the state saw additional revenue. So we're not objected to revenue per se. The state obviously, the problem here isn't on the revenue side of the equation, however, it's on the spending side. And that's where we really want to kind of make sure that we're not letting spending increase at double-digit increases every year. That's a problem. It's not sustainable.
Doesn't the forecast already anticipate that growth, though? That the forecast that this budget's based on?
Anticipate
doesn't it already anticipate natural growth in the economy?
Well, absolutely, and we've said that we can actually increase spending. I think the number is about $1 billion without raising one penny in taxes. I think that's 5 or 6% is what it comes out to in spending. So there is additional revenue there. And I know that the DFL loves to talk about budget deficits because that makes it sound like the state needs more money. We have more money, and additional money continues to come in above projections. So the state and the state's economy is in a good position. We're creating more jobs. The unemployment rate is down 1.5% from 2 years ago. So the state's economy is headed in the right direction. And we think that putting an additional tax burden on job creators in Minnesota and middle-class Minnesotans is exactly the wrong move at the wrong time.
Senator Ortman, the leaders said they're open to tax reform. Are there any serious discussions going on with the DFOs of the tax committee about reform? If so, where?
We haven't seen a target from the Democrats here at the Capitol for a budget. I mean, I would say that our fiscal discipline is as much of a budget goal as anyone's, and it's actually paying off. When it comes to reform, Minnesotans' taxes are too high. That's the most important reform we should be addressing right now, is making sure that we don't increase taxes. If we could do more, I would be all for it. In particular, we have anti-competitive tax rates. As I said, third highest in the nation for corporate taxes, will be fourth highest in the nation for income taxes. Our sales taxes are way out of sync with our neighboring states, much higher. Our sales tax code, I've said it before, is like a mound of Swiss cheese with so many holes in it, with exemptions and tax credits that were created over the course of 40 years, and we need to go back and fix that. I don't know that there's enough time to do that. I haven't seen a proposal coming from my colleagues on the DFL side yet to do that. So in one sense, there is a missed opportunity that we haven't really seen their proposals yet. They've been on hold waiting for the governor, and I think that's too bad. I think they should have come out and led with their own target and their own plan. We might not be in the situation where we're in now, heading soon to Easter break, into the second deadline week, and no budget proposals and no bills.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.